Maya Chen had grown accustomed to being invisible in her own family. At 28, she still felt like the awkward teenager who'd been perpetually overshadowed by her siblings' gleaming achievements. David, her older brother, was a cardiac surgeon whose accolades decorated her parents' living room wall like trophies. Sarah, just 2 years older, had made partner at a prestigious law firm before turning 30. And then there was Maya, the computer girl, whose dreams were dismissed with patronizing smiles and gentle redirections toward more practical careers. "Maya, sweetheart, you can't make a living playing with computers forever," her mother would say, the same way one might address a child who insisted they'd become a princess. Her father was more direct. "When are you going to get a real job?" David saves lives, Sarah defends justice. What exactly do you do? What Maya did was pour her heart into creating something revolutionary. While her family saw only late nights and glowing screens, she was building an AI-powered personal assistant that could transform how people managed their daily lives. But explaining machine learning algorithms to parents who still asked her to fix their email passwords felt futile. So she stopped trying. The breaking point came on a Tuesday in March. Maya was deep in code, debugging her app's natural language processing, when her phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. "We'll reading tomorrow at 2 p.m. Mom said not to bother telling you since you're probably busy with your computer stuff anyway." The casual dismissal hit like a physical blow. Their grandmother, Nai, had passed 3 weeks earlier. Maya had been the one who visited her every Sunday, who listened to stories about immigrating from Taiwan, who helped her navigate online banking and video calls with relatives. Yet somehow her own family assumed she had nothing important going on and couldn't spare time for the will reading. Maya arrived at the lawyer's office the next day, uninvited and unwelcome. Her parents' surprised faces said everything. "Maya, what are you doing here?" her mother asked, as if she'd crashed a private party. Saying goodbye to Nai, Maya replied simply, taking a seat in the mahogany-paneled conference room. The will reading proceeded with predictable precision. David inherited the house because he has a family to think about. Sarah received Nai's extensive jewelry collection, including the vintage jade pieces and diamond earrings that had been in their family for generations. Maya got a modest savings account and some books. But it was the lawyer's offhand comment that shattered her. Miss Chen specifically requested that Maya receive the jewelry collection initially, but the family felt Sarah would have more use for it in her professional life. The words echoed in the sudden silence. Maya stared at her parents who couldn't meet her eye. Sarah fidgeted with her briefcase, suddenly fascinated by its brass clasp. "What does that mean?" Maya's voice was eerily calm. Her father cleared his throat. Nai didn't understand. "Sarah needs to maintain a certain image for her clients. The jewelry serves a professional purpose, and what I do doesn't matter enough to honor what she actually wanted." It wasn't a question, it was the crystallization of 28 years of being treated as the family afterthought, the one whose dreams were too small to matter, whose achievements were too foreign to understand, whose very presence was optional at her own grandmother's final farewell. That night, Maya sat in her small apartment, surrounded by whiteboards covered in algorithms and user interface sketches. Her laptop displayed months of work that would soon revolutionize personal productivity. Her phone showed 17 missed calls from investors eager to discuss acquisition offers. Her family saw a girl playing with computers. They had no idea they'd just awakened a dragon. The discovery came by accident, buried in a box of Nai's personal effects that Sarah had carelessly left at their parents' house. Maya was helping her mother sort through old photographs when she found the letters, dozens of them, written in Nai's careful English, addressed to various family members over the past 5 years. The one that stopped Maya's heart was dated just 6 months before Nai's death. "My dearest Maya brings such joy to my Sundays. She is the only one who sees me as a person, not just an old woman to visit out of duty. She understands technology, yes, but more importantly, she understands people. The jade collection should go to her. She alone appreciates its history and meaning. She asks questions about our family in Taiwan, about the sacrifices we made. Sarah only sees $sign." Maya's hands trembled as she read letter after letter, each one reinforcing Nai's clear intention that the jewelry should go to her granddaughter who honors the past while building the future. There were detailed instructions about specific pieces, stories about each item's significance, and repeated mentions of Maya's kind heart and brilliant mind. The final letter, written just weeks before Nainai's stroke, was addressed to the family lawyer. I must emphasize again, the jewelry collection goes to Maya. Do not let my son and daughter-in-law convince you otherwise. They underestimate her, but she will surprise us all. She has her grandmother's spirit. Maya sank into Nainai's old armchair, the letters scattered across her lap like evidence of a crime. This wasn't favoritism or miscommunication. This was deliberate manipulation. Her parents had actively worked to circumvent their own mother's final wishes, all because they couldn't see past their prejudices about Maya's chosen path. She pulled out her phone and scrolled through recent emails. 3 acquisition offers, each larger than the last. A meeting request from a venture capital firm that had been courting her for months. An interview invitation from TechCrunch about her revolutionary AI breakthrough. While her family debated whether she deserved $50,000 worth of jewelry, Maya was quietly sitting on technology worth millions. The irony was almost laughable, if it hadn't hurt so much. But as Maya sat surrounded by her grandmother's words of faith and love, something shifted inside her chest. The hurt began transforming into something sharper, more focused. Nainai had believed in her when no one else would, had seen her potential when her own parents saw only failure. Maya carefully folded the letters and slipped them into her purse. Her family thought they knew who she was, what she was worth, what she deserved. They were about to learn exactly how wrong they'd been. Maya's transformation began with a single phone call that would change everything. She was reviewing her app's latest user metrics when her phone rang. Alex Morrison from Nexus Technologies, the 3rd largest tech company in Silicon Valley. Maya, I'll cut to the chase. We want to acquire your company. $15 million plus a leadership position heading our new AI division. You'd be CEO of the subsidiary, full autonomy, unlimited resources. Maya had been expecting this call for weeks, but hearing the numbers still made her heart race. $15 million, more money than her entire family had ever seen combined. More validation than she'd ever dreamed of receiving. I need time to consider, she said, keeping her voice steady. Of course. But Maya, this is revolutionary work. You're about to change how people interact with technology. We want you to lead that charge. After hanging up, Maya sat in her apartment, staring at the wall where she'd hung a photo of herself and Nainai from their last Sunday together. Her grandmother's words echoed in her mind. She will surprise us all. A plan began forming, delicate and precise as the code she wrote. Her family's next gathering was David's birthday dinner in 2 weeks. A mandatory family event that Maya typically endured with quiet resignation. But this time would be different. This time she wouldn't be the forgotten afterthought, begging for scraps of attention. Maya accepted the acquisition offer, but with specific conditions. The announcement would be delayed until she gave the word. She requested a formal executive assistant, someone who could handle the professional communication style that would be necessary for her new role. The company was happy to oblige their new CEO. She spent the next week orchestrating every detail. The restaurant reservation at Le Bernardo, expensive enough to make her parents uncomfortable but not so lavish as to raise immediate suspicion. The timing of the business call that would inevitably interrupt dinner. The careful phrasing she'd used to let the truth unfold naturally. Maya also made another crucial decision. She researched the jewelry collection that should have been hers, tracking down similar pieces at auction houses and estate sales. Not to replace what was taken, that was impossible, but to understand its true value. The collection was worth nearly $60,000, but more importantly, it represented 4 generations of family history that her parents had casually redistributed based on their own narrow prejudices. The night before the dinner, Maya called her new assistant, Jennifer, to coordinate the final details. The call should come in around 8:30, Maya explained. Make it sound urgent but not catastrophic. Use phrases like board meeting, acquisition announcement, and media interview. If they seem confused, offer to call back when I'm available. Understood, Miss Chen. Should I refer to you as CEO during the call? Maya smiled, remembering all the times her family had introduced her as Maya. She works with computers while David was our son, the surgeon, and Sarah was our daughter, the successful attorney. Yes, she said firmly. I am the CEO. It's time they knew it. The final piece of her plan was perhaps the most important. Maya had been quietly researching her parents' financial situation, public records, property taxes, mortgage information. Their comfortable lifestyle was built on increasingly shaky ground. David's medical school loans, Sarah's law school debt, their parents' underwater mortgage on the family home. Maya could solve all their problems with her new wealth. The question was whether she would choose to and on what terms. As she prepared for bed, Maya felt a strange mixture of anticipation and sadness. Tomorrow would mark the end of her invisibility, but also the end of whatever innocent hope she'd harbored that her family might someday see her clearly without external validation. She looked at Nai's photo one more time. "I hope you're proud of me," she whispered. "I'm finally going to surprise them all." The dinner began exactly as Maya had predicted. David held court at the head of the table, regaling everyone with stories from the hospital while Sarah chimed in with legal anecdotes that made their parents beam with pride. Maya sat quietly, picking at her appetizer, playing the role of the dutiful youngest daughter one last time. "So Maya," her mother said with forced cheerfulness, "how's the computer situation going?" "It's going well, Mom, really well actually." Her father barely looked up from his wine. "That's nice, dear. David, tell us about that surgery you mentioned." As David launched into another medical triumph, Maya felt the familiar sting of dismissal. But tonight, it felt different, like armor she was about to shed forever. The conversation eventually turned to Sarah's engagement plan. "We're thinking a spring wedding," Sarah announced, her new diamond ring catching the candlelight. "Something elegant but not too expensive. Though the venue costs are honestly shocking these days." "Well," their mother said, glancing meaningfully at Maya, "I'm sure we can all contribute what we can, even small amounts help." Maya nearly laughed at the transparent. They expected her to contribute to a wedding with money they assumed she didn't have, while Sarah wore jewelry that should have been hers around her neck. Speaking of contributions, their father added, "Your mother and I were hoping you could help us understand this computer thing you do. For tax purposes, you know, we want to make sure you're managing your finances responsibly." The condescension was breathtaking. Maya was 28 years old, and they still spoke to her like a teenager who needed guidance balancing a checkbook. "Actually," Maya said, setting down her fork, "I've been meaning to tell you all something important." That's when her phone rang. Maya glanced at the screen, her heart racing. Jennifer's timing was perfect. "I'm sorry, I should take this. It's work." Her father waved dismissively. "Make it quick, dear. Family time is important." Maya answered the call, putting it on speaker without seeming to realize it. "Maya Chen speaking. Miss Chen, I'm terribly sorry to interrupt your evening." Jennifer's voice was crisp and professional. "But I need to confirm a few urgent items for tomorrow's board meeting." The table fell silent. Maya's family exchanged confused glances. "Of course, Jennifer. Go ahead. First, the acquisition announcement is scheduled for 9 a.m. Pacific. Should I confirm your interview with TechCrunch for afterward? They want to discuss the $15 million deal and your new role as CEO." Maya watched her parents' faces transform from confusion to shock. David's fork hung suspended halfway to his mouth. "Yes, that worked. What about the Goldman Sachs meeting?" "Confirmed for Thursday. They want to discuss the IPO timeline and your expansion into international markets. Also, the venture capital firm called about the additional funding round. They're proposing another $20 million for the next phase." Sarah's mouth had fallen open. Their mother was staring at Maya as if she'd suddenly grown a second head. "Excellent. Oh, and Jennifer, please reschedule my meeting with the real estate attorney. I want to review those property acquisition documents more carefully." "Of course, Miss Chen. Should I push the call with the Wall Street Journal to next week as well?" "Perfect. Thank you, Jennifer. I'll see you in the morning." Maya hung up and looked around the table at four faces frozen in various states of disbelief. The silence stretched for what felt like an eternity. "I'm sorry," David finally stammered. "Did she just say $15 million? Maya took a sip of her wine, savoring the moment. "The acquisition, yes, my AI personal assistant platform. Nexus Technologies made an offer I couldn't refuse." You're a CEO?" her mother whispered. "As of last week, yes, CEO of Nexus AI division, with full autonomy and unlimited resources." Maya's voice remained calm. Conversational. "It's funny, I was just telling Jennifer how my family sees my work as playing with computer. She found that amusing, considering we're about to revolutionize the entire personal productivity industry." Her father's face had gone pale. "Maya, we had no idea." "No," Maya agreed. You never asked, never listened, never imagined that your daughter who plays with computers might actually be building something extraordinary." Sarah found her voice first, her lawyer's instincts kicking in. "This is incredible, Maya. We're so proud of you. We always believed in you. You know that." Maya's laugh was soft but sharp. Did you? Because 3 weeks ago, you didn't even think I was important enough to be told about Nai's will reading. You assumed I had nothing important going on. The reminder hit like a physical blow. Her parents exchanged guilty glances. Maya, her mother, began, "We can explain about that. Can you explain why you decided that Sarah needed Nai's jewelry collection more than honoring our grandmother's actual wishes? Can you explain why you've spent my entire life treating my dreams like a child's fantasy while celebrating achievements that frankly pale in comparison to what I've built?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. Maya could see the wheels turning in their heads. The desperate recalculation of everything they thought they knew about their youngest daughter, the scrambling to find a way back from the cliff they'd just realized they were standing on. David cleared his throat awkwardly. "Maya, we never meant to diminish what you were doing. We just didn't understand." "No," Maya said firmly. "You didn't want to understand. There's a difference." She pulled out her phone again, scrolling through her recent emails. "Would you like to see the Forbes article about my work? Or maybe the Harvard Business Review piece about women disrupting the tech industry? I've been featured in both this month." The shift in the room's energy was palpable. Her family was looking at her with new eyes, not with love or pride, but with the sudden recognition that they'd miscalculated badly. Maya could practically see them reassessing her worth, their treatment of her, and most importantly, what her success might mean for them. It was exactly what she'd expected, and exactly what broke her heart. The silence that followed was deafening. Maya could see her family processing the magnitude of their miscalculation, and she decided it was time to stop holding back. "You want to know what's really tragic about this?" Maya's voice remained steady, but there was steel beneath the calm. "Nai saw it all coming. She knew exactly who I was and what I was capable of." She reached into her purse and pulled out the carefully preserved letters, placing them on the white tablecloth like evidence in a trial. "I found these in her things," letters she wrote over the past 5 years, detailing exactly why she wanted me to have the jewelry collection. Not because of its monetary value, but because I was the only one who truly understood its significance. The only one who asked about our family history, who honored our heritage while building something new. Maya's mother reached for one of the letters with trembling fingers, but Maya pulled them back. She wrote to her lawyer multiple times, emphasizing that the collection should go to me. She specifically warned him not to let you convince him otherwise. She knew you would try to manipulate her final wishes, just like you've manipulated my entire life. Her father's face flushed red. "Maya, that's enough. We're your parents. We did what we thought was best." Best for whom? Maya's composure finally cracked, years of suppressed anger spilling out. Best for Sarah's professional image? Best for your own prejudices about what constitutes real success? Or best for maintaining the family hierarchy, where I'm permanently relegated to the bottom? David tried to intervene. "Maya, you're being unfair. We love you." "Do you?" Maya turned to face him directly. "Because love isn't what I experienced growing up. What I experienced was conditional tolerance, dependent on whether I conformed to your narrow definition of achievement. When I chose my own path, you didn't just disapprove, you actively dismissed and undermined me." Sarah's lawyer instincts finally kicked in fully. "Look, Maya, I understand you're upset about the jewelry, but we can work something out. Maybe we could share it, or I could give you some pieces." Maya's laugh was bitter. "You think this is about the jewelry? Sarah, you still don't get it. This is about respect. This is about being seen as a person worth listening to, worth believing in, worth including in my own grandmother's funeral arrangements." She stood up, her voice rising for the first time. "I built a multi-million-dollar company from my studio apartment, while you all assumed I was wasting my life. I revolutionized an entire industry while you worried about whether I had a real job. I honored our grandmother's memory every single Sunday while you visited her out of obligation and then ignored her final wishes when they didn't suit your agenda." The restaurant had grown quiet around them, other diners stealing glances at the escalating family drama. Maya's mother tried one more time. "Sweetheart, we made mistakes, but we can fix this. We're family." "Are we?" Maya's voice dropped to a whisper, which somehow felt more devastating than shouting. "Because family doesn't manipulate inheritance documents. Family doesn't exclude each other from important events. Family doesn't spend 30 years making someone feel like their dreams don't matter." She pulled out her phone and showed them a real estate listing. "This is the house you're living in, the one you've been struggling to keep up with the mortgage payments on. David's medical school loans, Sarah's law school debt, the second mortgage you took out during the recession. I know about all of it. Their faces went white as they realized what she was implying. I could solve all your financial problems with what I made in my first quarter as CEO. I could pay off every debt, secure your retirements, give you the comfortable life you've always wanted. Maya's smile was cold. The question is, why would I? Her father's voice was barely audible. Maya, please, please what? Please forget 30 years of being treated like the family disappointment. Please overlook the fact that you stole my inheritance from a woman who loved and believed in me when none of you would. Please pretend that your sudden interest in my success isn't purely financial. Maya gathered the letters and put them back in her purse. I have a better idea. I'm buying the house. The bank has already pre-approved my offer. Cash, 20% above asking price. You have 60 days to find alternative arrangements. The shock on their faces was complete. David sputtered, "You can't be serious." "I'm completely serious. And here's the beautiful part. I'm going to honor Nai's memory, the way it should have been honored from the beginning. I'm establishing a scholarship fund for first-generation college students pursuing careers in technology. The fund will be seeded with exactly the amount that jewelry collection was worth." Maya stood to leave, dropping several $100 bills on the table to cover the dinner none of them had finished. "You taught me that family is conditional, that love has to be earned through achievements you approve of, and that my dreams were worth less than other people's convenience. Congratulations, you've created exactly the daughter you deserved." As she walked toward the exit, her mother called after her desperately, "Maya, wait, we can talk about this." Maya paused at the door and turned back one last time. "No, Mom, we're done talking. You had 30 years to listen, and you chose not to. Now you get to live with the consequences." She stepped into the San Francisco night, leaving behind the wreckage of relationships that had been built on quicksand from the very beginning. For the first time in her life, Maya felt completely free and utterly alone. 6 months later, Maya stood in her corner office on the 32nd floor of the Nexus building, watching the sun set over San Francisco Bay. The city sprawled below her like a circuit board, its lights beginning to twinkle in the gathering dusk. Her company's IPO announcement would be made tomorrow, and early projections suggested a valuation that would make her one of the youngest female tech billionaires in history. Her phone buzzed with a text from her mother. Saw the TechCrunch article about tomorrow's announcement. "So proud of you, sweetheart. Love, Mom." Maya deleted it without responding, just as she had with the dozens of similar messages over the past few months. Her parents had become her unwitting PR team, bragging to their friends about their genius daughter, the CEO, with the same enthusiasm they'd once reserved for David and Sarah's achievement. The irony wasn't lost on her now that she was successful beyond their wildest dreams. They finally saw her worth. But Maya had learned to find her validation elsewhere. She'd discovered that chosen family could be more meaningful than blood relations, that respect earned through mutual understanding was more valuable than attention born from financial success. "Miss Chen," Jennifer knocked on her open door. "The scholarship committee is here for the final review." Maya smiled, the first genuine one she'd felt all day. The Chen Family Technology Scholarship, named for Nai, not her parents, had become her most cherished project. The fund now supported 50 first-generation college students annually, each one pursuing careers in technology with the same passion and determination Maya had once brought to her own dreams. "Send them in, and Jennifer, thank you for everything." As her team filed into the conference room, Maya felt the familiar warmth of being surrounded by people who had believed in her vision from the beginning. Her CTO, Marcus, who'd joined when she was still coding in her apartment. Her head of marketing, Lisa, who'd quit a prestigious job to take a chance on Maya's startup. Her board of advisors, who'd seen potential where others saw only risk. The next morning, Maya stood on the New York Stock Exchange floor, watching the opening bell ceremony for her company's public debut. The giant screens displayed Nexus AI in bold letters, and somewhere in the crowd of investors and reporters, she spotted a familiar face. Her former computer science professor, Dr. Kim, who'd been the first person to tell her that her ideas could change the world. Kim pushed through the crowd to reach her. "Look at you now, I always knew you had it in you." "Thank you for believing in me when it mattered most," Maya replied, and meant it. As the opening bell rang and cheers erupted around her, Maya thought about the journey that had brought her here. The revenge she'd taken had been swift and complete, but it had also been hollow. Her family's newfound attention felt more like a business transaction than reconciliation. They loved her success, but they'd never truly understood her. Standing among the people who had supported her dreams when they were nothing more than lines of code and late-night ambitions, Maya realized she'd found something more valuable than vindication. She'd built a legacy that honored her grandmother's faith in her, created opportunities for others who'd been overlooked, and surrounded herself with people who saw her worth long before the world caught up. The real victory wasn't in proving her family wrong, it was in proving herself right. And in that moment, as the stock price soared and her chosen family cheered around her, Maya finally felt the peace that had eluded her for so long. She was exactly where she belonged.